Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports. We are FC.
Royals baseball from Kauffman Stadium, and after back-to-back series against first-place teams, the Royals will begin a three-game series tonight with a last-place team, the Angels. Royals baseball is presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the ballpark with Rex Sudler. I'm Ryan Lefevre. Joel Goldberg and Jeff Montgomery are coming up. Well, let's begin with the bad news. We've got some bad news and we have some good news for you. The bad news is we knew during the All-Star break that these first 2 weeks were going to be really, really important. And so far, the Royals are just 3-6.
Yeah, you know, that is bad news, but really, I mean, there's so much of the season left, Ryan. With the Royals, they've got to be able to find out what each guy can do for the team. Move the runner, get him in, any way you can do it. They're only averaging 3 runs over the last 17 games. They've got to find a way offensively to help the starting pitching right now.
Okay, if you're looking for some good news, it is amazing how similar the circumstances are for the Royals today as they were 2 years ago when they began a 24-6 run.
Well, these are the positive things that the team can focus on. The main thing is today, and it's about wins, but the overall body of work, that was a great stretch. They can always do it again. Let's hope so.
Look at this. Through 97 games last year and 2 years ago in our Honda Most Trusted Players, we wondered if the Royals are going to be sellers 2 years ago. The record's identical. They're in third place both times and several games out in the Central Division.
Those games can be evaporated like that. As long as you can get that consistency back with the starting pitching, good plays on defense, and the timely hits, it can be done. Look, the emphasis now at this week is about the trade deadline. Forget about that. Players don't care about that. They can't control it. But they can control what they do with the bat and with the ball and catch it too. That'll help.
All right, let's talk about the Angels when we come back. They may be in last place, but they swept the Royals in Anaheim back in April, and they have not been hitting like a last place team in the month of July. couple of future Hall of Famers and a team that is averaging over 6 runs per game this month.
Woo! Just because they're in last place in the West, that doesn't mean anything. Day to day and night to night, every team presents its challenges, especially the way the Royals offense is sputtering right now. It's going to be tough against these guys.
All right, so what do the Royals need to do to pick it up on offense? When we come back, Joel and Monty will talk about pushing the envelope and maybe even early in the game.
Until first pitch here at Kauffman Stadium. First of 3 between the Royals and the Angels. Joel Goldberg, Royals Hall of Famer Jeff Montgomery, and the Royals did strike first on Friday night in that series, and we saw something that looked familiar, Monty, but not lately. The stolen bases, 3 on Friday night, just 3 in all the other July games. And how important is that aspect of their game?
Joel, it reminded me a lot of the 2014-2015 version of the Kansas City Royals, where they were able to go out and wreak havoc and make things happen on those base paths. Unfortunately, now we see a dramatic difference between last year and this year, where they rank in steals. One reason they have not been able to steal is that first inning run differential, getting down in games. Oftentimes hard to run when you're down in games, and gonna look for some more production here from the top 3.
Well, Ian Kennedy going up against the Angels. They don't homer a lot. They don't strike out a lot. Kennedy's been involved in a lot of that. Pud's keys to Kennedy coming up next.
first pitch, but before that, we got to show you the keys. The keys for Kia in the driver's seat, to break it down, is Kennedy. He's got to be able to find a way to keep that ball in the ballpark. Facing Albert Pujols and Trout, those powerful guys, could be tough. Keep it in the yard. He's given up the most home runs. Now, on the other side, hammer Hector. Hector Santiago. He's given up 15 home runs to right-handed bats, so those right-handers can be looking up in the zone and be ready to swing at that cookie that's out over the middle of the plate. You can get him. However, he's been good recently. The Royals need to find their home mojo. First pitch is coming up next.
Brought to you by your local Kansas City area Chevy dealers. Visit for great prices on the all-new 2016 Malibu. By Panera Bread, food as it should be with 24 KC Metro locations. And by Academy Sports and Outdoors, right stuff, low price every day. Christmas in July. So here's your 5-month warning. High of about 90 degrees today, and now a quite comfy 84 and mostly overcast, and we expect temperatures to continue that way throughout this 3-game series with the Angels after a blazing hot weekend. The Angels were blazing hot. They had won 6 in a row. They had won 10 of 12, and then they went to Houston over the weekend and they were swept by the Astros. And by the way, the Astros are just 2.5 games back of the Rangers in the American League West, and the Angels, Hud, are in last place in the West, 13.5 out.
Yeah, but you know, recently they haven't been playing like that, although that getting swept in Houston, we know what that feels like. But this guy here we're seeing, Escobar, has been a good leadoff hitter for him. He's hitting over 300. He's getting on base. And it's up to Ian Kennedy to try to stay away from the middle of the plate, keep the ball in the yard. That's going to be a big thing for him today. He's given up a league high 26.
And it's really the home runs that have been hurting him lately. Of the last 32 runs he's allowed, 24 have been on home runs. So he's a dramatically different pitcher when he keeps the ball in the ballpark.
And now he's very good with his fastball. He's not afraid to use that pitch. You can see 64, almost 65% of the time. Changeup, curve are the other 2 secondary pitches. He will mix in some sliders occasionally, but the important stat there is a 191 average on that fastball, but still got to keep it out of the middle of the plate.
There's the crew chief, Phil Cuzzi, his 18th year as a big league umpire. He'll be at second base, chatting with Christian Colon. Adam Hammery is the home plate umpire. Paul Nart is at first, and Dan Bellino is at third. So here is Escobar, a .318 hitter, but as a leadoff hitter for the Angels, his on-base percentage is .365, and he takes a fastball for a strike.
Yep, about 100 points higher than our Escobar leading off, and he loves that fastball. He's excited about this opportunity facing Kennedy.
Isn't it amazing to you? I mean, the book is out on Kennedy. He's been around for a while, and even if you want to update the book this year, how many called third strikes he has gotten with that fastball? The league just has not adjusted to that yet.
No, it's where he puts it. It's all about that location right there. That's where he wants to keep it. It's a good spot. He's got some movement on it like a two-seamer, but it's not. It's a four-seam fastball, and they call that has late boring action. Escobar 2 for 7 with a homer in his career.
And he has a knack of getting on base to begin a game.
He can hit a fastball. Royals defense sponsored by Ford. Paulo Orlando's 6th start out in center field. He can go get him. Very comfortable out there. Spent most of his minor league days, and there was 9 full seasons of him in center field. Eibner, good speed in right. Alex Gordon, he wears the gold. There's good defense out there that they can run those mistakes down.
This is right fielder Cole Calhoun. Outside with a fastball.
We talked about, Escobar, and his good on base percentage and everything, but one thing he does not do, and that's steal bases. Been caught 3 times this year, hasn't been successful 1 time. Now Scioscia, he's a little bit more aggressive manager as far as hit and run goes. Likes to do that a little bit with Andrelton Simmons, shortstop.
Outside 2-0 on Calhoun. The Angels are 11th in the league in stolen bases, and the years you were broadcasting there when the Angels were dominating the West, I mean, they had pitchers and defenses on pins and needles the entire game. You didn't know when they were going to run. You didn't know when they were going to hit and run. They were always taking extra bases.
It all depends on the type of players that you have. Remember the designated hitter that Mike Scioscia had the year they won their only world championship. Brad Fulmer was the DH, and he could run. I mean, he was a guy that stole bases, and he was causing havoc. So you're one DH, you expect to be slow-footed.
He is the dean of major league managers in his 17th season with the Angels. And Kennedy's in trouble. A single and now 4-pitch walk with the middle of the order coming up. So 2 on, nobody out to Mike Trout, who has 19 home runs. He's driven in 62. Well, let's see if Kennedy can get out of the first inning tonight, because the last time he faced the Angels, his worst inning was the first. And now down and away, 1 ball and no strikes, and Salvi's a bit concerned. They're going to go out and talk about it. It was a while ago. It was April 25th, so 3 months ago today. Kennedy gave up 5 runs, but 3 of those runs came in the first inning. Kennedy had a comebacker and a chance for a double play to get out of the inning. The Royals did not turn the double play, and the Angels scored 3 runs in that first inning.
Amazing. When you don't catch the ball, it's hard to win games. Now, he's not exactly a ground ball pitcher. He's only induced 3 ground ball double plays.
And now he's missed with 6 straight pitches. 2-0 on Trout.
So you would think the Trout would be taken all the way. So there's a pretty good nugget there. They lead the league in grounding into double plays.
Good spot, 2-1.
Yep.
And Trout knew that was a good spot for a pitcher.
Yeah, and you know, Trout's an excellent low ball hitter. You can beat him up, but you got to make sure it's above the belt. But he's just got a great bottom hand, and his top hand works as well. But look, that bottom hand does most of the damage. It takes the bat right to the ball.
3-1. And Albert Pujols, who hit 2 home runs against Kennedy in that start back in April, waits on deck. Bases loaded, nobody out, and that was the situation back in April. And it was Pujols who came up with the bases loaded, nobody out. He hit 2 home runs in that game. He did not hit a home run with the bases loaded in the first.
Yeah, but he got that fastball up on a tee, and then later pulled another one, and he's been hot. Albert hasn't missed a beat. So I believe Dave Island's talking to him about that shoulder. That's always a key element when you're not having command. And just get that shoulder going north and south and line it up and stay right over the top of that ball. It's like he's pulling off a little bit, and his fastball's not where it should be.
Pujols has already driven in 72 this year, but when you look at the Kubota power stats for tonight, 22 of those have come in July. That's the most in the major leagues, not just the American League. And here he is with the bases loaded, nobody out in the first inning. Takes a fastball for strike 1.
He's got to get ahead of those hitters that mix in that change up, his curve, and you get ahead, you can get him to swing off the plate, you hope.
Up the middle and into center field. So Pujols is now driven in 24. Orlando has some trouble out in center field. 24 RBIs in July for Albert Pujols. Still nobody out, and the Angels lead 2-0.
Albert stayed right on top of this ball. Wasn't trying to do too much with it. It was a fastball down the middle. See how short his swing was. Now, nice try there by Colon. Just a tad late, but that's right down the middle of the plate. And they're fortunate that Albert didn't get more out of that. But he's shortened up his swing.
First and third, and nobody out for Daniel Nava. Kennedy starts him off with a curveball. So Trout is at third. He walked. Pujols is at first. And here's the big drop off in the Angels order. Calhoun has power. Trout has power. Pujols has power. And now Nava, who has 1 home run and 108 at bats this year. Good movement. Good location. 0-2.
Nava's a dead pull hitter. Colon playing him to pull over there on the right side.
Still 0-2. Among the Angels' problems this year, injuries, and they currently have 10 players on the disabled list. Nava has been on the disabled list twice this year. He's had a left knee problem and a left groin problem. The Royals know how that feels.
Yeah, I believe I counted 10 on their disabled list. They got a whole bunch of them injured.
One ball, 2 strikes. Nava, for most of his career, has been a switch hitter. And now, for a second consecutive season, is batting left-handed only.
You know, it just depends on what's going on with that right side. And sometimes, you know, there's contrasting styles. You have different mechanics from one side to the other, and that'll causes headaches. It's a lot of work for a switch hitter. You know, you're working on one side, then you're thinking, oh, I got to go on the other side now. So look, just eliminate it. JT Snow was another guy that quit hitting right-handed.
Still 1-2. Well, we saw earlier this year with Kendrys Morales. You know, he's doing just fine on the right side, couldn't get it going on the left side, and has different approaches. I mean, he's the same guy, but he's essentially two different hitters, right side of the plate versus left side.
So the best way to do that, if you're going to switch hit, is to have the same mechanics if you can, both sides of the plate. We've noticed Lindor, the excellent shortstop for the Cleveland Indians, same style both sides of the plate. Same mechanics.
Into left center field. Plenty deep as Paulo Orlando brings it down. And he'll play it to second base. So, as many fans are still trying to locate their seats, the Angels have a 3-0 lead with one out in the top of the first inning.
Well, Nava waited. He was patient. He waited for his first swing where he could get a good pitch he could handle.
And now Andrelton Simmons batting at .286 overall, but in his last 25 games he's hitting .400, so that's a .400 hitter at the plate, and he takes outside, ball one.
One of the reasons he is he's so short with his swing. It's very compact. He uses the right side of the field, stays inside, a little bit like Derek Jeter used to. I mean, Derek Jeter, every team would play him to the opposite field. He goes that way. Kennedy looked like he's going to try to pitch him inside. Anything out over, he just puts it in play. He's not going to have a whole lot of power, but like you said, he's been sizzling.
Pretty good swing. 1 ball, 2 strikes. With 3 runs scoring here in the first inning. That's 71 runs allowed by the Royals in the first inning. That's the most in the American League, and tied with Cincinnati, a last place team, for the most in the major leagues.
Yeah.
So what a role reversal.
Yeah.
I mean, last year it was the Royals scoring so often in the first inning. Eibner calls off Orlando and makes a play on Simmons.
Yeah, that puts the offense in a hole, you know, right away from the very beginning. And, you know, I think, you know, whether you're a veteran pitcher or a young rookie starter, it's all the same. It's that first inning that you can get out of it. Sometimes you have trouble establishing your pitches and what they're doing, finding which one's going to work for you.
Ji-Man Choi comes to the plate. No balls and 1 strike. Batting just 170 in 53 at bats. He is a Rule 5 player from the Baltimore Orioles. Down in the count, 0-2. Out of South Korea, first in the Seattle Mariners organization. And that's into the right field corner. Pujols is very slow, and he'll be held at third base. So the Royals are lucky the runner at first base was Pujols. Otherwise, the Angels have a 4-0 lead.
Yeah, it was a hanging curve. It stayed up. Choi was able to rake it down the line, and when it took the second or third bounce, it got caught in between the padding and the base of the wall, and Eibner had to come get it. Didn't kick off there like he thought. But there's a a curveball. It stays right up about belt high and it's over the middle of the plate. Watch how the ball sticks at the wall.
So the 8th man to come up, Carlos Perez, Angels catcher. Joel talked about it before the game started tonight, about how Kennedy has been relying on strikeouts and the Angels simply don't strike out. Now Kennedy hasn't always been a strikeout pitcher in his career, but he has been this year. Even in his last start, when he gave up 7 runs to Cleveland on Wednesday, he struck out 8. But the Angels far and away have the fewest strikeouts in the league. Diving play, Escobar, and no play at first base. That saved 1 run, but the Angels get their 4th, and they will bat around in the top of the 1st inning.
Escobar did all he could to get to his feet, desperately to try to get that 3rd out for him. It wasn't going to happen. Haas comes off the bag. That's what you do. Make sure it doesn't get by you. Give him any more.
"31 pitches for Ian Kennedy, and here's the number 9 hitter, former Royal Johnny Giavotella, and he takes an aggressive hack at a first pitch fastball. Christmas in July, and Santa has left the building.
Yeah. There's nobody very giddy sitting around the tree right now. It's quiet here at the K. And it should be. I don't believe Kennedy's had a first inning like this all year.
Well, the Royals have now allowed 72 runs in the first inning, and that's the most in the major leagues. All of last year, through 162 games, the Royals allowed 68 runs in the first inning. And now the Royals know what it feels like to be on the other side of this. Royals with that relentless offensive attack, swinging early in the count, starting runners early, scoring early, and the opposition was on the defense 1 inning into the game. Perez was running, and Giavotella fouls it away.
Yep. Angels have taken that number 1 role and hardest to strike out. Royals are 5th now. Santa has not left the building.
Okay.
He's confident. He knows there's a lot of game left. No chance of him getting cold tonight.
Giavotella strikes out. The Angels bat 9 and score 4. And a 36 pitch first inning for Ian Kennedy. Clowntar on his bat. The Royals are down 4-0 with Escobar, Cuthbert, Hosmer, Morales, the former Angel, Perez, Gordon, Orlando, Eibner, and Christian Colon against left-hander Hector Santiago. And if you think the Angels offense has been on a roll in July, how about Santiago on the mound? He is 4-0. He has the second best ERA in the major leagues in July and the most run support.
Well,
other than that, it's been an awful month for Hector Santiago.
He's already got 4 tonight, so they're on at it. What he's going to do is he's going to try to throw strikes and challenge hitters when you get a lead like that.
One and 1 to Alcides Escobar. Esky was on base 5 times during the Rangers series, with an on-base percentage of over .460. More willing to take a walk, working some deeper counts.
He has been looking more selective. That's good.
Simmons out from shortstop, and he'll make the play on Escobar.
So you want to know what Hector Santiago throws? Let's show you. He throws everything but the kitchen sink. Fastball, changeup, slider, curve, cutter, and he's got a whole bunch of. Now he's aggressive. He can be effectively wild. Hector Santiago. He's got 47 walks and 110 innings pitched. So you know he's going to walk his share of hitters. And when I saw the matchup before the game on paper, I said, oh man, you know, lefties like this usually give us a hard time.
1 and 1 on Cheslor Cuthbert.
Especially if he utilizes his changeup. He keeps it out of the zone. His changeup's been a good effective pitch. He really sells it with that arm speed.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Academy Sports and Outdoors leaderboard going back to Cuthbert's season debut on May 7th. Strike 3 over the outside. Cuthbert asks about that location. Adam Hammery is the home plate umpire. Cheslor lost his 12-game hitting streak yesterday, but he lined out 3 times.
Sure did. He was on the ball. He just didn't have any luck. That's a good pitch by Santiago. Snuck it by him.
Two outs to Eric Hosmer. No swing. Third base umpire is Dan Bellino. Hosmer was just 1 for 13 in the Rangers series, but he drove in 3 with a couple of first inning RBI groundouts. High in the air to left field. And that'll be handled by Nava. Santiago needs only 10 pitches to get through the Royals in the bottom of the first. brought to you by Dodge. Find your summer of performance with great deals at the Dodge Summer Clearance Event. Big crowd watching tonight. It's not Tuesday, but the equivalent of a T-shirt Tuesday. Fouled away by Escobar. Christmas in July, and they're giving away an ugly sweater T-shirt.
Yeah, I haven't seen that sweater yet.
Ugly holiday sweater T-shirt.
Well, I haven't seen the T-shirt.
1-1 on Escobar, who opened the game with a single to right field, and that was just the beginning. Then Calhoun walked, Trout walked, Pujols drove in 2 with a single, and then Nava and Perez also had RBIs, and the Angels batted 9 in the first inning. Escobar thinks that pitch was outside.
Oh well, it's off the plate, called a strike.
2-2. Some hitters don't like to lead off, and it's mostly because they don't want to be the first guy up in the game. But Yunel Escobar has been at his best when you ask him to lead off a game, and when he singled in the first inning, his on base percentage leading off a game this year is well over 400.
No,
So it doesn't bother him at all.
No, and you know what? He's not running it either. He's not a guy with great speed, so he's hitting all of that. He loves the fastball. He's looking for one here. Kennedy likes to challenge hitters. Put a little wrinkle on that one. That'll keep you off the fastball. Yeah, aggressive hitter, good pitch.
Our Toyota League leaders, if you go back to June 26, so 1 day shy of a month, only big strikeout guys like Jose Fernandez and Max Scherzer have more strikeouts than Ian Kennedy.
Ball has a little bit of run on it, a little late life, and he puts it around the 4 quadrants like that. That ball's up there. He uses the corners. Get him looking fastball and then pull the string on him like he did Escobar.
That was the first strike that Calhoun has seen tonight. Kennedy walked him on 4 straight pitches in the first inning. And there's that changeup, and it's 0-2. Still no balls, 2 strikes on Cole Calhoun. He had his breakout season last year. He hit a combined 25 home runs in his first 3 seasons, and then he hit 26 in 1 year last year.
Well, he's got great pull power, that's for sure. He's aggressive. He looks for the ball in. You can see how he's off the plate a little bit. It's a pitch like that he wants, but thought that ball was up. But there's again Kennedy using that other side of that strike zone, that inside part, which is good. He's going to have to knock some of these hitters back, knock them off the plate. I mean, that was a good high strike, but I'm talking about moving the guy's feet. He's going to stay in this game. This guy's looking a little bit too comfortable.
Mike Trout with 2 outs. He also walked and scored in the first inning. Down and away, ball 1. Mike Trout, since the All-Star break, is hitting .220. 2 balls, no strikes.
Seems hard to believe. but he's walking a lot. He's getting on base. He's got a great on base percentage, and therefore he's been able to score 28 runs in his last 26 games. So he's finding a way.
Power to all fields, and he drives Eibner to the fence in right, and Brett has just enough room to make the catch. So the Angels batted around in the first, and they send just 3 to the plate in the second. Morales, Perez, and Gordon coming up. Happy birthday, and looks like Dad's also chipped in with a souvenir baseball. Four nothing Angels. They scored all 4 runs in the first inning. Ball one to Kendrys Morales, the former Angel. Morales did a nice job yesterday at first base.
Sure did. Every day that he gets that opportunity to play out there, he's been making some kind of special play. He saved a run for sure, and another possible error. 2 errors. Soft hands.
Down in the count, 1-2.
Let's take a look at him. Look at that ready position. He's ready. Takes his time. Ball hopped up on him. He came up with the hop. Followed the throw. Picked the ball. That saved a run. Cuthbert again short. But Morales, very soft hands.
And he just hit that ball too hard. And it stayed up for Calhoun.
Santiago is the guy that other teams have been looking for, especially with the trade deadline right around the corner here. Lefties, righties, pretty good, pretty decent numbers there, but righties have got 15 home runs off of him. This is an opportunity for somebody to jump on him from the right side. Or, you know, from the left side, but it's a little bit more difficult when he's throwing those sliders, cutters, and curves away. Good changeup. Talked about how his arm speed sells that. So important for a left-hander that's facing mainly right-handed hitters to be able to use the same arm speed as his fastball. And it tricks the hitter.
Giavotella makes a play just inside the line to get Salvador Perez. Royals saw Santiago with the White Sox before he was traded to the Angels. In fact, Santiago made his big league debut against the Royals back in 2011. A 30th round draft pick of the White Sox 10 years ago. out of a community college in Florida, Hector Santiago. 0-1 to Alex Gordon. One ball, one strike.
Royals have a nice number against left-handed pitchers this year. Their average is 281. That's third best in the American League with 25 homers. So they've had some good numbers against left-handed starters, left-handed pitchers overall. Alex hitting just 175 off of lefties. This is a good opportunity for him to really keep that shoulder in, keep the shoulder in tucked, and try to shoot that ball to left field. This year Alex has been spinning on a lot of pitches inside, pulling them foul. Overcommitting.
Full count. And Alex is on. He hasn't hit his stride yet offensively, but he's still getting on base. And with that walk, he's reached base safely in 12 of his last 13 games. And Santiago, it's early and he's only allowed one base runner, but it seems like every shot we take of him, he is shaking his head at himself. Bad body language, as you would say.
That's right. That's the language that's spoken out there, and it's read by hitters.
Doesn't look like a guy who's pitching with a 4-0 lead.
His last start versus Texas, he went 5 innings, gave up 5 hits, 3 runs, 3 walks, but he was a little bit erratic and he was hyper, a little bit unsure of himself, just what you're seeing there. A little bit of a body language issue.
1-1 on Paulo Orlando. He had 5 hits in the Rangers series. There's the line. He lost a 24-inning scoreless streak in the 3rd inning of that game on Wednesday, which was a career high. 100 pitches in 5 innings. That's a lot. Change up, and it's 1-2.
Ball's coming into the righty. That's something you can be looking for and be aggressive. You could look to pull that. If that pitch is coming in, your chances of going out and getting it are better coming in on you than trying to take it the other way. Pull him.
2-2.
Alex 5 for 5 in steals.
Off the end of the bat, shallow right, and Calhoun can't make the play. Alex will be held at 3rd. Paulo Orlando has a bloop single.
You know, they say that the hits all even out when you get those bloopers, those little doinkers like there, but that's right off the end of the bat. And Paulo will take it. You talked about him having a good series with hits that previous series. He hit a nice little one-hopper back to the pitcher. It would have been up the middle. Pitcher last night in yesterday's game caught it. No, didn't turn the double play on him, but that would have knocked in a run. So he's had some balls he's hit hard, but he'll take that.
And now Brett Eibner. Fastball over the inside for strike 1. He was 0 for 3 with a walk in the Rangers series. And now 0 for his last 11, so he's due. Tied him up and inside. 1 ball, 1 strike.
It's tough on a lot of rookies coming up here trying to face this big league pitching for the first time, first round through. Now he's holding his own so far, you know, coming into this game. 254, but he's hitting 375 off of southpaws, and that is a mark that he wants to keep up, get those hits, especially as long as Lorenzo Cain's been out. He'll be getting the opportunities against the lefties.
1-2.
There it is right there. You know, you don't want to be a platoon player. You want to be an everyday player, obviously, but when you're a right-handed hitter and you have some power and you have good numbers against lefty, that manager that you're playing for is going to see that and say, all right, here's my lefty guy.
Just inside. 2-2.
Santiago, he's very quick. And his windup from right there, he has a little jerk, a little jerky, herky-jerky motion that really picks up his arm speed as once he splits his hands over his knee. And the balance, watch how quick his arm moves. Change up there, sold it.
Calhoun first broke back, but has plenty of time to recover. And the Royals leave 2 in the bottom of the 2nd inning. Faced 9 batters and the Angels scored 4 and then got the Angels in order in the 2nd inning with a couple of strikeouts. It'll be Pujols, Nava, and Simmons in the 3rd inning. Pujols drove in 2 of the 4 runs with a high chopper up the middle, driving in Escobar and Calhoun, and then Pujols scored on an infield single from Perez. Had the Hall of Fame inductions in Cooperstown yesterday. Ken Griffey Jr. and Mike Piazza, and someday Albert Pujols will be on that stage.
He will be for sure.
Right center field and deep. And Eibner, for the 2nd time tonight, makes a play on the warning track. In fact, back-to-back hitters. That's where Trout flied out to end the 2nd inning.
Fans, don't miss out on great Royals tickets at a big discount with the second half saver packs. You can choose any remaining 3, 5, or 7 Royals home games, including matchups with the Yankees, Blue Jays, and Indians, while saving up to 30% off the regular dynamic price. Take advantage today by purchasing a second half saver pack at Royals.com/saverpack.
Daniel Nava hit a sac fly to center field his first time up, and he takes inside, ball one. Two 2-0 on Nava. Close, but outside 3-0. Three and one. Kennedy walked 2 in that 4-run first inning, and both scored. Calhoun and Trout both reached with a free base and came around to score. Little bloop into left field, and that's down for a base hit. Nava is on with 1 out. Here's our T-Mobile greater coverage of baseball. Well, the trade is official. Aroldis Chapman is going to the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs sent 4 players to the Yankees, and talking to some members of the Royals front office, the shortstop prospect Torres was the player who has the best chance of being an impact player in the major leagues. The Yankees also picked up Adam Warren, a big league pitcher who came up through the Yankees organization and pitched for the Yankees. So Warren goes right back to New York, and then a couple of fringe prospects. But the Chicago Cubs, who have stumbled lately but still have a 7.5 game lead, or stumbled at one point this month, they picked it up again and have the most wins in the major leagues. Now have Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah, I'll tell you, you got to make that move, that crucial move that could help get you a title.
Nava was running, and Simmons flies out to Orlando. Yep, 2 down.
Simmons is Scioscia's hit and run guy, so I wasn't surprised to see him going that there, Nava. And a good hit and run guy is a guy who makes the contact to the right side of the infield, and also, you know, the guy doesn't have a lot of strikeouts. Simmons just has 19 strikeouts and 231 at bats, so he's going to put the ball in play and move the runners.
Ji-Man Choi got a curveball on 0-2 and doubled into the right field corner his first time up.
Kennedy did him a favor, and he slowed his, he sped his bat up by throwing him that curveball. And that curveball comes, the hitter's got time to get that bat head out and pull it. Just made a mistake, and Choi didn't miss it. See, he was a little bit tardy on that heater right there Kennedy gave him.
Changeup fades outside. 1 ball, 1 strike. Fastball by him, 1-2.
Yep. Don't throw him any more breaking balls. You can get that heater by him.
Two balls, 2 strikes. Fastball at 92. Remember, we were saying in the first inning that Daniel Nava, who's at first base, gave up switch hitting last year. Ji-Man Choi started switch hitting last year in his 6th professional season. And when the Angels took him in the Rule 5, they said, you're just going to bat left-handed.
It's tough to do.
Orlando comes up from center field, and that's the inning. Back-to-back scoreless innings for Kennedy after the 4-run first. From frozen, and Elsa has caused it to snow at Kauffman Stadium, but the snow isn't falling, the snow is rising because of the heat and the humidity.
And the snow's not melting.
Proving once again you can't beat fun at the old ballpark.
You can't. Look at him. Don't eat the snow.
And don't stick your tongue on that railing there. You know, it might stick. Christian Colon, Alcides Escobar, and Cheslor Cuthbert coming up here in the bottom of the 3rd inning. It has been a pitcher-friendly strike zone for both pitchers in the early innings. We've had a few glances back from the hitters at home plate umpire Adam Amari. Change up is low, 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Saniano, he's been burying that fastball in the cut fastball in on righties, high and tight on him, being very aggressive with it.
No swing. That's Paul Nartz, the first base umpire. Now it says that Santiago throws a changeup, but some would say it's more like a screwball. That's a fastball outside and a leadoff walk to Colon. There's a pitch you hardly hear about anymore. Somebody throwing a screwball.
Now he'll use it to both lefties and righties, and he does a good job, like I said earlier, keeping the same arm speed as the fastball. He got Eibner out with a changeup.
Escobar popped to short, leading off the bottom of the 1st inning.
You know, Fernando Valenzuela had a really good screwball.
Did you face him?
I did. I don't know what my numbers were off him, but ooh, watch out. But I faced him a lot. It was tough. I mean, it starts out of the middle of the plate, and you can pick up the spin on it, but it moves away out of a left-hander's hand. When you're a right-handed hitter, it fades away and down, and it's really, you can't hit it if you try to pull it. The only chance you got is to go to the opposite field.
0 for 4 with a strikeout against Fernando Valenzuela.
That might have been in his no-hitter.
Yeah. Well, at least you put 3 balls in play.
Yeah,
Right?
that's right.
That's right. You were playing for the Cardinals when he threw his no-hitter.
Right. That's the only time I ever faced him. Didn't face him again after that over. What's you gonna do?
Every manager you had after that said, well, let's see, every time somebody puts Hudler in the lineup against Valenzuela, he throws a no-hitter.
No chance.
Now, the reason pitchers don't throw screwballs is that's got to be really hard on the arm, right? I mean,
Yeah, you're
throwing overhand is unnatural as it is, but
if you really have to put the finger pressure on that index finger, and they turn it over like this, and they throw it and let go of it, and they get that spin going on the outer half, and it spins and it fades away, but it's a lot about velocity. It's a lot about the velocity. Left-hander's going to throw it, and he's going to turn it like that as he lets go of it, and it's going to have this kind of spin. You can see it, but it looks different because it's not coming in from a lefty, it's going away from you. So it is an interesting pitch, but they take a lot off of it and they throw it slow, and the seams catch the air pocket, and it really does a nice little dance away.
you were 0 for 3 with a strikeout and the no-hitter, so you had 1 more at bat against Fernando.
Well, Pedro Guerrero and Ozzie Smith, they didn't get hits either. I wasn't the only over.
Getting a little defensive, aren't you?
Well, look, you guys are throwing overs on me up here.
Do you remember who the final out was?
Pedro Guerrero was. Final out. I think I told you the story about taking the lineup off the wall. I took the lineup
that's
off the wall.
right.
Yeah, I walked out of that. I was the last guy out the dugout, and I saw it sitting on the wall, and I took it off the wall.
The manager's handwritten lineup card.
Right?
By, was it Joe Torre, the manager of the Cardinals?
I believe it was Herzog still.
Okay. Out to Giavotella. Boy, Simmons, he turned a non-double play almost into a double play with a quick turn. Escobar's safe at first. There's 1 out.
Well, he's a platinum glove winner in the National League. He'll win a Gold Glove here if he stays long enough. I mean, he could be this year. I don't know. He was out for a period of time with an injury. But he's very slick, very smooth fielding, quick hands in the transfer, and a cannon for an arm. His feet are as good as any shortstops in the league. Now, there's a ton of good young shortstops in the American League. He's one of them.
Cuthbert struck out looking in the first inning. Breaking ball is inside. There's the changeup slash screwball.
That's not the pitch you want, that screwball. You want that cutter coming in if you're a righty. Look up. He's going to make a mistake with it. You got to look in there.
Good read. Cuthbert was all geared up for a fastball there, and he started to trigger and realized it was off speed. Schessler, losing his 12-game hitting streak yesterday, lined to left field twice and also lined out on the infield. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Yep, he was on the ball, that's for sure. Just no luck. But you know, there was a 2-0 changeup and then a 2-1 fastball. So he's pitching backwards a little bit. So next count you get 2-0, you can look for a changeup and you might get one.
Into the right field corner, slicing foul, and back into the crowd. Broke his bat. Escobar to Giavotella and over to Choi for a double play. 5-4-3. And Hector Santiago has 3 scoreless innings. David started helping with the Special Olympics in the late 70s, officiating and coaching soccer and rugby. After a restaurant was no longer able to hold a Secret Santa event for people with special needs, David picked up where it left off. He and his friends for Families delivered gifts and eventually started doing a luncheon where Santa would drop by to deliver gifts to the families that he and his elves prepared. David sitting in the Buck O'Neil legacy seat. Christmas in July. Carlos Perez drove in the 4th and final run in the Angels' first inning as they batted around against Kennedy. And now Kennedy has allowed just 1 base runner over the last 2 innings.
And you know, how many times do you see that? You have a pitcher that gets in trouble in the first, and then after that he just settles in and mows them down. First innings games are won a lot of times in that first.
On the ground to Cuthbert. Kennedy has his first ground ball out.
Fans, play the game that's sweeping the nation before you watch your Royals at the K by taking advantage of our Poke pop-up sale. That's right. For this Wednesday night when
That's
the Royals,
hard to say, by the way.
Yeah, matter of fact, it is. Take on the Angels. Hey, get a $10 Hy-Vee ticket with exclusive 1-hour early admission to on-field experience with access to lures and a gym before the game to catch your favorite characters. Early admission is also available for student night ticket holders. The sale is underway and ends tomorrow at 10 a.m. So visit royals.com/flash sale now and use the coupon code POKE to receive the discount.
Do you have any idea what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm thankful that my boys aren't on it, and I'm not either. We're not out looking for Pokemon.
They're not?
No. Do you know anybody that does? I haven't seen anybody.
I don't think I do, but when we had that night off in Detroit and Saturday and we all went out to dinner, and on the way back, I mean, there are people running into each other on the streets looking at their cell phones trying to find a Pokemon. Giavotella goes up the middle and gets it by Colon. Johnny Giavotella is 1 for 2. Get a chance to chat with his former teammate in the minor leagues and in the big leagues. Eric Hosmer. There's a former Royals first-round pick standing next to a former Royals second-round pick.
I'm happy for Gio getting an opportunity with the Angels, and last season he won a starting job out of spring training. Working hard. Could always hit, was always just a little limited defensively on the routine plays, didn't have the greatest range, but look, he's turned himself into a big league player by his hard work and not giving up and not believing what people were saying he couldn't do. That's a key. I'm telling you, if you're going to do anything in life, you're going to be the best. There's going to be your critics. There's going to be a lot of negative. You got to find a way to find the positive and dwell on that. Work. And believe in yourself.
He looks like he's trimmed down too.
Yeah, he when he was with the Royals, he had a real muscular build, really strong, and that's okay. But for baseball, the long, lean muscles are the more productive ones.
Two and one on Escobar. Here's a name that'll take us back a few years, but I got a chance to see Carlos Fabulous rookie year in Kansas City. Fantastic defensive second baseman. Good hands, good range. Teamed up with Ray Sanchez, who was a shortstop. I mean, they work magic up the middle. 2-2 on Escobar. But it was an era in the game where defense was not rewarded. Power was rewarded. This was before testing. And players were tempted to just get bigger and stronger because that's how you got paid. And every year, Carlos Fabulous got a little bigger and a little bigger, and his defense really suffered. All of a sudden, he was not getting to balls that he once could, and he never hit. Here's a chance for two. Out at second. Double play. He never hit enough to get a big contract, and all of a sudden he wasn't a good defender anymore. Kennedy gets all 3 outs on the ground in a scoreless 4th inning.
And Dayton Moore, the GM, asked, are they going to buy, sell, or stand pat?
That's what we continually do, especially this time of year. Whether we make a move or not, we are evaluating the landscape, as I said, which is potentially putting us in a better position this offseason, as we always need to improve our roster.
Comments from Dayton Moore, and Edinson Volquez was surrounded by the media today. That's what happens this time of year, because the rumors, and just that, guys, rumors.
I think that throw hit Hosmer, and he's going to end up at second base. It's going to be a single and an error.
Now, that's a way to get a rally started. Yeah, Haas, we don't see it too often, but he dropped that bunt down on us. Your guarantee Socha is going to say that Haas was inside the grass, on the grass, and not in the line. That's what he's saying right now to home plate umpire. But still, I don't think he's got a call, because the last minute, the last 10 feet before the bag, Haas got back in the line when the ball hit him. So check out where Haas is now. And he's going to end up way on the grass. Better angle here. Watch him get inside on that grass. I don't know why he did that. Look at the turn he made. I mean, he went way in. And then at the last minute, that's what Mike Socha saw, that from that angle he had in the third base dugout.
And you have to interfere on the play. It's not just because, you know, where you're located. Now, if Santiago's throwing from the line and Choi is not able to get it, well, then he's clearly interfering. But that, what do they say in the NFL on pass interference? It has to be a catchable ball.
That's
well,
right.
That was not a catchable ball for Choi.
Well, Choi wanted no part of the contact there at all. He just backed off. Now, if he would have taken that throw from the inside part of the base like Haas would have, but he didn't have the experience Haas has. He didn't wear the gold.
One and one. Let's go back to Joel.
And real quick on that play too, it depends on where you're stepping at what point. You could be in the base path, out of the base path, depending on when that's hit. He was re-entering to the base there, so there's no issue. He's talking about Edinson Volquez, and you know, it's just rumors at this point. No truth at all to anything, but he hears it, he knows it, he knows his name has been out there. And Edinson Volquez saying, look, I want to be a Royal. I feel part of this city, and we as a team have a lot of motivation. We know we could do this. But to what Hud said before, Edinson Volquez said, look, I can only control what I can control. I have to focus on pitching every 5 days.
That's it. But there were, and there are tonight, scouts that I haven't seen all season long that are here. Different guys. And, you know, I try to crack on them. Hey, looking for some players tonight? And they all kind of smile. Oh, yeah. I said, there's plenty of good players out there. Just keep your hands off ours. And you're not messing with them. They never give up the goods. They never tell you what they're doing. They're scouts.
That's well hit to center field. And Trout on the edge of the track. That'll get Hosmer to third. And there's one out.
Right idea here. A curveball didn't hang in. It stayed up over the middle of the plate. It brought it in the back door, but Morales, he met it and just didn't quite get a little bit more of the center of the ball to get it out. A little bit underneath it. Productive out. Haas tagging, had to look twice. He knows Trout has a good arm.
And now Salvi with Hosmer at third base and one out. Salvi's driven in just one run during this homestand.
There you go.
He has driven in 3 during the homestand. Salvador Perez hits a 2-run home run to make it 4-2.
There you go. There's a right-handed bat coming through there. Looking for a mistake. Got it. 15th on the year for Salvi.
Fastball strike to Alex Gordon. He walked his first time up. And that's 16 home runs allowed by Hector Santiago to a right-hand batter. 0-2.
Yep, that was my key tonight. We're not done. Plenty of time left. Paulo and Eibner, those are the right-handed batters, taking advantage of the mistakes. See right there where Perez was set up away there, and Santiago missed badly. We talked about his, he's wild, effectively wild. And when you use the word effectively wild, that means that he's able to get guys out because they're not sure where it's going to go. Man, that's around the corner there. So he comes back and paints the corner.
3 fastballs. You don't see Alex take 3 fastballs in one at bat very often.
There it was, first pitch. Waited right up for him, right down the middle. Right on the meat of the bat. Good shot, good balance, great balance.
It's probably where he wanted that pitch to Salvi, what he just threw to Paulo Orlando.
Down in the lower half. If he hits it, he tops it.
Paulo blooped a single into right field in the 2nd inning. One and one. Don't expect to see a lot of home runs in this series. The Royals have hit the fewest in the league. The Angels have hit the 2nd fewest in the league. 1 and 2 on Paulo Orlando. Right to Johnny Giavotella. And that's the inning. The Royals are on the board. Salvador Perez hits his 15th of the year, and his last 6 have been here at Kauffman Stadium.
Oh, Salvi says, pilot to Bombardier. Open up those Bombay doors.
They scored 4 in the 1st inning, and now Ian Kennedy's had 3 straight scoreless innings. The Royals get a 2-run home run from Salvador Perez, scoring Eric Hosmer to make it a 4-2 game. Salvi back to work with Kennedy to begin the 5th inning. The Angels will have their muscle coming up. Calhoun, Trout, and Pujols. Down and away, ball 1-2. Cole Calhoun, he took a 4-pitch walk and scored in that 4-run 1st inning, and then Kennedy came back and struck him out in the 2nd. On the ground to Hosmer, and there's one away. Kennedy's last 4 outs have been on the ground. So Mike Trout with 1 out as we look at our sprint trivia question for tonight. Name 5 of the 10 players with the most hits in the American League since Mike Trout's debut in July of 2011. 5 of the 10 in the American League. Well, we begin with Mike Trout.
And you got to throw Miguel Cabrera in there.
How about Eric Hosmer?
Yeah, that might work.
1 ball, 1 strike. All right, so we've got Trout.
How about Yunel Escobar? Miguel Cabrera on that list?
He is.
Thank you.
So we have 3 of the 5. Sometimes we go for extra credit.
Right.
A little slider away. 3 balls, 1 strike.
Well, it's going to be an interesting run for the MVP. I mean, they're already in the running, obviously, but Trout's got his hands full this year for competition. Donaldson won last year. Good rip. He missed that. He wanted that one. He hit a ball here a couple years ago, was it? That went over all 3 walls in center field. Remember that ball he hit here? Went out in the back fountain.
Just to the left of straightaway center field.
Right.
That's the 2nd walk tonight for Trout. And it's the 3rd given up by Kennedy. Albert Pujols drove in 2 of the 4 runs in the first with a single. He is 1 for 2.
Okay, watch Albert here. Bases loaded. Controlled his swing. Just tried to aim it for up the middle, and that's what he got. He got a good bounce off the plate, right in front of the plate there. Got some top spin on the ball and got him on the board. Next time up, he flew out deep to right. Eibner caught it at the track.
1 ball, 1 strike. What about this guy? Is he on the list? He is not.
Okay.
There's 2 of them right there. Trout and Hosmer. Two balls, 1 strike. How about Alex Gordon? No.
The reason we're staying here is that, did you give him our hint?
Yeah, one of the hint was 3 of the players are in the building. So Trout and Hosmer. Good chance for 2. This is going to be the tough one here, and Cuthbert realized it was going to be a tough out at second base, so he took the sure out and got Pujols at first. Trout moves up to second.
Only way he was going to go to second is if he got that ball out of his glove cleanly. He's excellent making throws on the run, coming in, going to his left, to his right, but you can see he had a little slight bobble there and just take the sure out.
Daniel Nava has singled, and he has a sacrifice fly. How about Alcides Escobar for a dark horse?
Huh? Go ahead.
Now, I guess he's had a couple of productive years with the Royals, and he plays every day. One and one.
All right, let's take a look at the question again. And 5 of the 10 players with the most hits in the American League since Mike Trout's debut.
We've got 4. Adam Jones. Ding, ding, ding. 2 balls, 1 strike. We have not named the player who has had the most hits, however, during that span. Dustin Pedroia on the list, not the leader.
Big Poppy.
Too many walks. 2-2 on Nava. Ian Kinsler. Not the leader, but on the list. He's second on the list. Alex runs to the side wall. Still 2 balls, 2 strikes. All right, Hud, we have Trout, Cabrera, Hosmer, Escobar, Jones, Pedroia, Kinsler. But we still don't have the guy who has the most hits. Now,
Victor Martinez has got to be in there somewhere.
Nope. Still 2-2.
All right, fans, don't miss out on Huskers night on Saturday, August 6th, when the Royals host the Toronto Blue Jays. The first 7,500 fans who bring their Huskers night theme ticket to Gate A will receive a limited edition gray and red branded KC cap, courtesy of Fox Sports Kansas City and Rally House. Purchase your theme ticket at royals.com/theme tickets. We got to get Darren Erstad here. We need Ersty. It's a call for you, Ersty. Come on.
Got him. Right on the elbow. So the Angels have 2 gift base runners in the 5th inning, a walk and now a hit batter, and Dave Island's on the phone with the Royals bullpen as Kennedy in 4 2/3 innings has thrown 98 pitches.
That's why you wear that elbow pad. He'd been missing in within the previous pitches, so he's trying to get him out in.
Jammed him. Escobar over to Colon. There's the force on Nava, and that's the inning. 99 pitches for Kennedy. He has 4 straight scoreless innings after the 4-run first. A Northtown Mazda game break 26 years ago. George Brett hit for the cycle at Skydome in Toronto, now Rogers Center. And that's the last time a Royals hitter has hit for the cycle. And by the way, also on this date, 17 years ago, George was inducted into the Hall of Fame, going in with Nolan Ryan and Robin Yount.
Nice.
And in the case of Robin Yount, George went in there with a player like himself who played with just one team.
Good history night.
One and one on Brett Eibner. Okay, you finally came up with a guy who had the most hits in our trivia question.
I couldn't believe we hadn't mentioned him. He's one of the best hitters in the game. Still is. Robinson Cano.
Yep. And Elvis Andrus is also on the list.
Okay. These are guys that stay healthy and play every day. I mean, you know, these guys are grinders.
So we're only missing one. They asked for 5, but we've given them 9.
Okay.
Does Fizz go for extra credit too when the trivia question comes up?
No, Fizz is crickets. Fizz
He doesn't participate?
We do, but you know, I got to prod him a little bit. And, you know, I feed off of him, and I feed off of you. And you know, sometimes he knows it's for the fans, so he kind of doesn't want to just spew the answers. But look, we don't always know him. There's a good pitch there. He missed it.
Eibner flied to right with 2 on 2 out in the second inning. And that's a called third strike. 3 strikeouts for Santiago, all on fastballs, all looking. All right, let's answer the question. We're missing one guy.
Yeah. Put Beltre on that list.
Adrian Beltre. We just saw him.
I know it. Well, Holtzy gave me that good last final hint, and that's all I needed.
Here they are. One and one on Cologne. Who's the surprise to you on that list?
Probably Adam Jones.
Cologne is out, 2 away.
Maybe Eske.
Well, Jones never walks.
He's a swinger
for a power guy.
Yep.
So not a ton of power guys on there because of all the walks and all the strikeouts. So I can see where you'd be surprised that Jones would be that high on the list. Third time through the order for the Royals. Alcides Escobar is 0 for 2. Inside, 1 ball and no strikes. Calhoun crosses the line, goes on the wall, and came very close.
He's a hard ball player. He plays hard.
He timed that perfectly.
Yeah, watch him. Now look, he took a look down, knew exactly where he was. Use that 1 foot can get you propelled another 3 feet higher, 4 feet. Oh, and he almost made it. Look, it's all about knowing where you are and having the ability to
it hit his glove. Did that hit his glove?
That's because he came down. He did it. He said, hey, I had it. You'd love that effort if you're a pitcher. You'd love that. That's a foul ball. Could have been caught, been out of the inning. He's a redhead.
He'll be talking about that the rest of the night.
Yeah. Because how many of those do you get? Out here at the K, the walls are higher down that line. You don't see many guys do that.
Now, who pays for that?
Well, you know, you can't replace your divot on the wall. That's the spike mark, and you know, I'm sure that we might tell Trevor he's sorry, but I don't think he's going to get a bill for that.
nor will he get a bottle of Evan Williams bourbon.
Uh-oh, watch this guy. Oh,
man, impressive anyway.
How about the stretch by Choi?
No way that play should have been that close.
No, I didn't even think he was going to get to it. And he almost threw him out. Look at the stretch by Choi, man. Wow. He really tried to help him all he could. Thought that ball was going through. And a quick release, and he really got enough leverage on top like that to get a strong throw off. Staying on top of that throw. The leap with the right foot. And Choi saying, ouch.
Yeah, no kidding, man. That hurts up here just watching that. So runner at first, 2 down to Cuthbert. That's off of Escobar's glove. Simmons is there, and he got him this time.
One unbelievable. He said, look, I didn't do it the first time, and I'll show you that I can make that play the second time after it deflected off of Yunel Escobar's glove. We talked about how this guy here is one of the best shortstop. Now look at this. Stays with it. Same exactly. Look, the quick release is what got it. Wow. That is an incredible play.
The Royals are going to challenge.
See how he hits the front part of the base? Look at Cuthbert. Long lunge. Watch out for the bruised heel. And I think he got in there. Boy, look at that. But you hit the front part of that base. If he hits the middle or back part of the base, he's out. That's why we teach the young players, touch that front part of that base, you'll get that hit. Take nothing away from the attempt. The throw was incredible.
And as we show you the replays here, remember, it's not when it enters the glove, it's when it makes contact with the back of the glove. So Cuthbert, bag, ooh, man.
Look at him digging for that.
Tough to see there. Call is overturned, so Cuthbert was safe. Well, back-to-back plays where Royals get hits, and yet we're dazzled by a defensive player.
Yeah.
So Cuthbert gets a hit, and that puts 2 on for Eric Hosmer.
Look at Escobar out there saying, hey, look, would you leave our guys alone? Maybe that nice hustle by Cuthbert will give the Haas a chance to knock him in or more.
Down and away, ball 1.
Alcides, look, how many have you robbed? Now he's pleading to him, saying, hey, why are you taking our hits away? And Eski's robbed many. He knows that feeling.
Inside, 2 balls, no strikes. Hosmer dropped down a bunt and picked up a single. He scored on the Salvador Perez home run in the 4th inning. He's 1 for 2. He has Escobar at second, who reached on an infield single. Cuthbert at first. He reached with an infield single.
Okay, now he threw Gordon all fastballs to Alex. Struck him out. See if he stays on that pattern here. Haas likes the ball middle away and up. He'll take some elevation.
That does not look like a pitcher in the right frame of mind.
Nope. A little nervous about this 2-0 count.
3-0.
Fish ain't biting out there. Last 2 pitches were borderline, but off.
Taking or swinging?
I'm going to take. With 2 outs, you got Morales on deck, the righty. If he walks him, you know, they're loaded up for Morales. Let him take, let him take a strike here and then make him do it again. It's only because he's a lefty. If he's a righty, you might give him the green light.
3-1.
That looked like it was the same spot as the previous pitch. Well, can't blame Haas.
Pitcher-friendly strike zone tonight. We noticed that in the first inning. Morales is on deck. That might have been ball 4, but Hosmer finally got a pitch that was up and could not resist. Escobar and Cuthbert will be running. And the 3-2. Did he go? No swing, and the bases are loaded with 2 down. Second walk. All this started with 2 outs. And now Santiago is going to get a visit from his pitching coach, Charles Nagy.
Charles was a solid right-handed pitcher in his day. Good starter. Cleveland Indians.
So Escobar is at third. Cuthbert's at second. Hosmer's at first. Escobar was almost out on a ground ball. Reached with an infield single. Cuthbert was out on his ground ball. The Royals challenged and they won. And then Hosmer is on with a walk, and now Morales, who already had good numbers against Santiago before the game started, and tonight he is lined to right and hit a sacrifice fly to center field.
Yeah, welcome. Hopefully it gives him a cookie. Royals hit 273 as a team, just 1 extra base hit. That was the grand slam by Dyson.
Fastball for strike 1. And that grand slam by Dyson is also the only extra base hit the Royals have had all year with the bases loaded.
Morales knows the pressure's on Santiago, not him.
Oh, and 2.
He liked that one. That was out over the plate. That would have been directed to right center field. 4-seam fastball on the outer half. Good head position. Didn't pull it. He's got the right idea. Likes to stay aggressive to righties inside with runners in scoring position.
Struck him out. 3-pitch strikeout after the visit with Charles Nagy, and he stayed aggressive with the fastball. So out of all that, the Royals leave the bases loaded and are scoreless in the 5th.
that is our AT&T high-speed replay. Royals fall short there in the 5th, trailing 4-2, and that brings Ji-Man Choi to the plate. And after the Royals left Anaheim back in April, I saw an interesting story on MLB.com from Alden Gonzalez early May. Ji-Man Choi did not sleep well at his hotel when they were visiting Milwaukee and the Brewers. The reason? He thought that he saw at the Pfister Hotel, nice downtown Milwaukee hotel, ghosts. And this apparently has happened before at that hotel, as the story goes. Guys like Carlos Gomez, Brendan Ryan, Adrian Beltre have seen funny things there, although those guys are known as being a little bit eccentric. And so the story then would go on to say that Choi said, "I've seen ghosts plenty of times before," he said. Said he first saw one back in 2011, felt a spirit on his chest that awoke him, and then the bed slumped. Said, "I was scared at first, so I didn't want to open my eyes. I dealt with that a lot more times after that. Then with some South Korean teammates, heard voices, felt a hug at night." It wasn't his teammates messing with him, guys. They said that they felt the same thing. So he says about the occurrence in Milwaukee, no big deal anymore. I'm used to it. He said, "I hope it's a girl." Nah, just kidding. You know, I've dealt with it so many times, I don't really care anymore. Hud, you ever seen any ghosts?
Oh, Joel, what a story. I've seen them, but I've not been afraid of them.
Have you heard voices before?
Oh, absolutely, on a regular basis. I just don't know where they're coming from, though.
How about pressure on your chest in the middle of the night?
Never have experienced that one.
Okay.
Not by a ghost.
The story said that Carlos Gomez once claimed to hear voices at the hotel, then watched his iPod go haywire after stepping out of the shower. Adrian Beltre's TV and air conditioner turned on and off, and Brendan Ryan saw a moving light, but I guess they didn't have the long experience that Ji-Man Choi has had with all those spirits.
Ooh. Cuthbert got caught in between hops, and Ji-Man Choi is on. That's an error on Cuthbert.
We've seen him lay back and stay back on balls at times, and that makes it a tough play, but that one just ate him up. Whenever you step back on a ball like this, is a one hopper, big hop off the plate there, or in front of the plate. See him backing up now with a top spin, just a tough read.
.106 pitches for Ian Kennedy in 5+ innings. He's out. Peter Moylan is a Chevy call to the bullpen. And we're going to take a look at another Northtown Mazda game break. Jose Iglesias off of Drew Pomerantz.
Ooh, is that Pomerantz's first outing in a Red Sox uniform? Second.
That's out of Fenway. Iglesias, a former Red Sox player.
Took a vicious hack on that. Pete Moylan.
This would be a tough guy to bunt on as Perez bunts it foul.
And not necessarily the time of the game. The Angels have a 2-run lead here. I think, you know, the fact that they've grounded into more double plays than any team in baseball, I think this is why he's sacrificing right here. Moylan, sinker, slider are his pitches.
Throw to first is in time, so the sacrifice works. 1-4 to get Choi to second base. Some sidearm pitchers will also throw sidearm to the bases, but Moylan goes over the top. I mean, you never know he was a sidearm pitcher when he throws to the bases.
He's an athlete.
So Johnny Giavotella with a runner in scoring position. In for a strike, 0-1.
Gio's just hitting 205 with a runner at second base and beyond.
Trying to go the other way. It's 0-2. Brian Flynn warms up in the Royals bullpen after Giavotella, another right-hand batter, and Yunel Escobar. And then the left-hand hitting Cole Calhoun. That's foul. 0-2. Pitcher like Moylan can be real tough on a right-hander, but left-hand batters get a really good look, and this is why Flynn is warming up. If we get as far as Calhoun, it's very rare for a pitcher of Moylan's style to also have a lot of success against left-hand hitters.
Sure is. That's all about that front shoulder, being able to keep it in, because he's starting out around you, right in back of you, that release point. And when you pull your shoulder, that's what happens. See that? There it is. He's Laredo. And then check out Gio's shoulder. His shoulder went, and when your shoulder goes, you got nothing left.
What does Laredo mean?
That's a term used by ball players. He's a Laredo guy. He throws down low. Laredo. Just a term that came up from my days down in the dugout. Never heard that term?
Would that be in reference to like Laredo, Texas?
I think it's just low. It's Laredo. South Texas, yeah. Whatever.
So he comes by way of Laredo.
Right.
All right. I'd never heard that before.
Well, you know, when you spend 21 years in those dugouts and clubhouses, there's a lot of talk, and you're trying to make a living off them guys, and those terms come up. I think it's only appropriate for me to share some terms with people up here, and they think they're my terms, but they're not. They're baseball terms.
There's a group called Band of Horses that has a song named Laredo. Good song.
I'll have to Google that.
They all play their instruments underarm. Moylan gets the job done after Choi reaches on the air, getting a sac bunt, a sacrifice, and a ground out to third. Perez, who has already homered, leads off our Sonic Slam inning. Our contestant is Glenda Depew from Belton. If the Royals hit a home run in this inning, Glenda wins $3,100. How about that? It's been 31 games since the Royals have homered in the 6th.
Good swing.
1-1 on Salvi. If the Royals hit a grand slam out of the park, Glenda wins 25 grand from Sonic and the Royals. Salvi homered with Hosmer on in the 4th inning, turning a 4-0 Angels lead into a 4-2 game, and nobody has scored since.
Woo. Nice sound.
Perez, Gordon, and Orlando. 94 pitches for Santiago, and they're working down the Angels bullpen. Beat him. Fastball by him. He's had a good fastball tonight.
Right. And remember, early in the game, I was talking about the scouting report on him. Aggressive into righties, but especially with runners in scoring position. And he threw 3 fastballs right by Morales with him loaded up. So he's getting it by him.
J.C. Ramirez, right-hander, warms up in the bullpen.
He does not throw from Laredo.
Santiago?
Yep.
Yeah, he would be more like Chicago.
Yeah, right there. But look, I'm walking out to use the restroom in between innings.
Okay. TMI. Anyway.
Right. I see Tim Conroy, special assistant to Dayton Moore, is a scout. And he played for the Cardinals and the A's. And so I said, hey, Tim, if a guy throws from Laredo, where's he throw from? He says, down under. I said, okay, thank you. That's all I want to know.
Isn't it odd that a guy from down under who throws down under is referred to as Laredo?
No, that's just where he throws from. I mean, that angle. So he knew, because he had heard that before, too.
Do you think pitchers in Australia say, oh, he throws from... That was a bad Australian accent.
that was
he throws
Italian.
from Laredo. Hey, mate. 3-1 on Alex. He has walked and struck out. And Alex takes his 2nd walk. So that brings a tying run to the plate. And will Mike Scioscia stay with Santiago?
I don't know. But folks, get closer to the action at the Cave with our Royals Memories program. Choose between a variety of unique opportunities such as photo on the field, watching batting practice, and delivering the game ball. All experiences are available for purchase each game exclusively through the MLB.com Ballpark app. Download the Ballpark app, pick upgrades, and select a once-in-a-lifetime experience you'll cherish forever.
Mike Scioscia has not pointed to the bullpen yet. 100 pitches thrown by Santiago. He threw 100 pitches in his last start in only 5 innings, and now 100 pitches tonight in 5 1/3 innings. And Mike Scioscia is going to go to the bullpen. So J.C. Ramirez will be a Chevy call to the bullpen. He'll face Paulo Orlando with 1 on, 1 out in a 2-run game when we come back. Royals baseball is brought to you by the Missouri Lottery. Every ticket you play gives back to schools across Missouri, so play it forward with the Missouri Lottery. By Menards, save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. And by your Midwest Ford dealers, visit your MidwestFordDealers.com. Christmas in July, the Royals had an ugly holiday sweater t-shirt giveaway. That guy has an ugly holiday Royal sweater.
Well, I don't know. I thought that was kind of attractive sweater myself. Was that an ugly sweater?
That was a very ugly sweater.
Okay.
JC Ramirez inherits Alex Gordon with 1 out, and will pitch to Paulo Orlando with Eibner, Colon, Escobar, Cuthbert all coming up. So a lot of right-hand batters for Ramirez. And that's inside for ball 1.
Pretty good arm. He'll go mid-90s, maybe even a little bit higher. Good slider. 2-pitch guy. Hard. Look hard.
To the gap in left center field. Trout closes in on it and makes a play. Ball just kind of hung up there for Mike Trout in the humidity. Two down, and now Ramirez will get Brett Eibner. JC Ramirez is from Nicaragua, and I believe there are only 3 native Nicaraguans in the major leagues at the moment, and 2 of them are here tonight, Ramirez and Cheslor Cuthbert. And they know each other. They've played together in the winter. Down and away, ball 1 to Brett Eibner. Erasmo Ramirez would be the other pitcher from Nicaragua. Eibner flied to right in the 2nd inning and struck out looking in the 5th.
That wasn't much of a move. That was just a, hey, look, I know you're over there, and I know you got 5 steals.
That would be Brett Eibner on a Christmas tree ornament. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Just a little behind tonight. Santiago, he baffled the Royals hitters with his fastball. Threw some changeup, maybe fastball changeups, but man, Royals aren't being able to get around on the heater. There.
96.
Looks to me like his head's going first, and he's not really staying on the ball. Swings a tad long.
Perhaps feeling the effects of not getting a lot of regular work.
That's right, timing, man. Timing's hard. You play once, twice a week.
Alex was running on that pitch.
And it's really hard to generate any kind of power, you know, with just 1 start a week. So you're better off just shortening the swing and trying to put the ball in play. And then, you know, that home run is a byproduct of a good, easy swing. It'll happen.
Timeout asked for by the catcher Perez. Down on strikes. Ramirez comes out of the bullpen and gets Orlando and Eibner. And at the end of 6, the Angels lead 4-2. currently has 10 players on the disabled list, but he's going to get a guy back from the disabled list tomorrow. Tyler Skaggs will make his first start since almost 2 years ago, July 31st of 2014. The lefty had Tommy John surgery and started last year on the disabled list, started this year on the disabled list. So, you know, they say about 12 to 18 months of recovery, but for Skaggs getting back to the big leagues, it'll be almost 24 months.
It's going to be interesting. I'm kind of happy to see him make his return, but I know Royals hitters aren't. If he pitches anything like he's been doing in his rehabbing, going to make it tough on the Royals. Another lefty that's a lot of arms and legs flying at you.
Brian Flynn comes on to face Cole Calhoun, and he'll get Mike Trout and Albert Pujols. That's grounded right to Hosmer. Eric will take it to the bag himself. Calhoun is 0 for 3. He did walk and score back in the Angels' 4-run first inning. So it's Flynn out of the bullpen. He made a start this month. And now Dylan G has that spot. It'll be Dylan G tomorrow night against Tyler Skaggs. Flynn back in the pen.
Did you know they served trout at the press dining room tonight?
I saw that.
Did you eat any of it?
I did not.
It's pretty good.
Trout has walked twice and scored once. Otherwise, fly to the warning track in right field. We were talking about his home run here a couple of years ago. One of the longest home runs in the history of Kauffman Stadium. Not into the first tier of the fountains, just to the left of center field, but into the second tier. And if I recall, it was against a former teammate, Jason Vargas. Don't see many balls land up there.
We got one usher. He's pointing it out. He's saying, "Did you see that? What was that that went over our head out there?"
3-1 on Trout.
Now, I remember that. I'm not sure exactly what the distance they gave on that, but there was a small debate on that, the distance of that ball. Not a large debate. Caught the top of the strike zone there. Fastball, slider out of the bullpen. The other day in his start, he brought in some changeups. Did Flynn. But he's mainly a two-pitch guy out of the pen.
Trout walks for a third time tonight.
Hey, Royals fans, if you can't watch the games on TV, you can now stream the games live on your mobile device. Just go to your app store, download the free Fox Sports Go app, log in, stream the Royals wherever you go.
One on, one out to Albert Pujols, and that's outside for ball one. The Angels have not scored since the first inning when they scored all 4 of their runs against Ian Kennedy. Pujols drove in 2 with a single. Nava and Perez also drove in runs, and then Salvador Perez had a 2-run home run for the Royals in the 4th. Broken bat, and the count is 1-1. Albert Pujols has 579 career home runs. That is 11th all time. Next on the list is Mark McGwire, who had 583. So he's 4 home runs from being 10th all time. He is also 10th all time with 1,189 career extra base hits. That skips by Salvador Perez and gets Trout into scoring position. Wild pitch on Brian Flynn.
Came in little, making him move those feet there. Albert's had some foot issues in his career. Plantar fasciitis, had surgery on it last winter. Want to get hit there. You know what's impressive about Albert, though, is his heart. He gives. Albert Pujols Foundation, taking care of special needs kids and the Down syndrome community. He's deserves a lot of credit for all the work he does off the field. Spends a lot of his time here in Kansas City in the offseason.
Born in the Dominican Republic, moved to New York for a short time and then to Missouri when he was 16 years old. First went to Fort Osage High School nearby in Independence, and then of course Maple Woods, where he was drafted by the Cardinals. Base hit right field. Eibner was very deep, so Trout will score easily from second base, and the Angels have a 5-2 lead.
Again, Albert shortening his swing, not looking to hit one over the fence, but just put it in play and pick up another RBI. 75th RBI. Good swing. You know, once in a while I'll go to the Lifetime Fitness in the off season. Saw Albert riding his bike. Not once, twice, maybe. I saw him probably a handful of times this winter. And you know, the Royals fans, baseball fans, they leave him alone. It's great. It's unbelievable. There's, you know, everybody just let him do his work. You know, you recognize him. You know who he is. Except me. I'm the only one going crazy. When I saw Albert, I threw my hands in the air. I ran over to him. You know, but I was really impressed with the people that go to the Lifetime, how they just left him alone and let him do his workouts. A star like that, you'd think that more people would be like me, but I couldn't help it. I backed down a little. I tried to, but I got excited when I saw Albert.
This is Jeffrey Marte. He's going to bat for Daniel Nava. Well, his wife Dee Dee is from Kansas City, so she has a lot of family here. Albert has a lot of extended family, so yeah, they spend quite a bit of the off season here.
And his special needs daughter is in gymnastics here, you know, and so hey, we're happy to have him.
Strike over the inside to Marte. A lot of grumbling at the home plate umpire Adam Hammery tonight.
Marte's done a good job off the bench for Scioscia. He's got a couple of hits and 8 at-bats. 1 home run. Pinch hit homer.
Broken bat. Out at second. Close and out. Double play. A 1-out walk to Mike Trout. And a wild pitch leads to a run. And the Angels add to their lead in the 7th inning.
defense for the first time this year and looking to get Lorenzo Cain back soon. The other day we saw this out in the outfield. Lorenzo Cain working on that defense with Rusty Kuntz. He was taking swings. That was a few days ago. And guys, I talked to head trainer Nick Kennedy today, and he said that Cain is progressing well. He is very close to going out on an assignment. He said that the level of his effort and everything that he's doing has improved about 15 to 20% from a few days ago. The recovery is better, the endurance is better. The next step now is to get into a game situation. Don't have an exact time or when that's going to happen, but it sounds like it could be any time.
Well, we were hopeful when he first went down that it would be right around the minimum 15 days. Todd Cunningham takes over in left field after Daniel Nava was pinch hit for in the top half of the 7th inning, and Fernando Salas is on the mound.
Salas will use a couple different arm angles we've seen already. 88 to 91, fastball, slider, changeup. 45th game, ERA right at 5. He's given up 8 homers.
Escobar throws out Colon.
No, that's great to see Lorenzo Cain. He's advancing rapidly, but to watching him do those drills, he almost looks 100%.
Escobar reached with an infield single in the 5th inning. Royals have left 6 on base in the first 6. Royals had plenty of base runners in the Texas series and just couldn't cash him in. Oh, and 2 on Escobar.
That slider looked like it went straight down, almost had changeup like action on it. Fooled him.
One and 2 on Escobar. Two balls, 2 strikes. Salas, for a time, was the Cardinals' closer. In fact, he saved 24 games the last time the Cardinals won the World Series. But as you say, sometimes baseball will hand you a slice of humble pie. By the next season, he was back in AAA.
Yeah, you hope it's a slice and not the whole pie.
Still 2 and 2.
Doing a good job keeping it out of the middle here on the secondary pitches.
A little trivia question for you, Hud.
All right.
Fernando Salas place in Royals history.
The hitter.
Salas has had a role
Okay.
in Royals history. Recent Royals history. Right field corner, and it's down and it's foul.
Let's check out the flashback. Oh.
Mike Moustakas extra inning home run in game 1 of the division series.
That's Salas.
Off of
Yeah.
Fernando Salas.
Oh, man.
That was the first of 5 postseason home runs for Mike Moustakas, a Royals record.
Wow.
Coincidence or otherwise, when they matched up for the first time in 2015, Salas drilled Mike Moustakas.
Oh, really?
2 down.
All right, fans, play the game that's sweeping the nation before you watch your Royals at the K by taking advantage of our Poke Pop Up sale. That's right. for this Wednesday night when the Royals take on the Angels. Get a $10 Hy-Vee ticket with exclusive 1-hour early admission to the outfield experience. That's right, you can find Pokemon out here at the K with access to lures and a gym before the game to catch your favorite characters. Early admission is also available for student night ticket holders. The sale is underway and ends tomorrow at 10 a.m. So visit Royals.com/flash sale now and use the coupon code POKE to receive the discount. Poke pop-up sale. There's a pop-up.
Fernando Salas gets Colon, Escobar, and Cuthbert in the bottom of the 7th inning.
Laughing at me.
We're laughing with you.
Okay, thank you. Is presented by the authority of the Kansas City Royals and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Kansas City Royals Baseball Club.
A little easier read for you.
Yeah, that Pokemon was a little tongue twister at first, but look, you know, folks, this is what we do. You know, look at that. This is the reads that we get up here on these commercials that we get to do for our great sponsors that are out there. And Rhino, he's the real professional, but he's tired a little bit tonight, and he's having me read some of these promos. So look, it's your fault.
Tired tonight?
No, you're not. I just made that up.
Okay. Nice. And there you have it.
You got a lot of kids at home to keep you up. Four boys, or 3 boys and a girl. A lot of sleepless nights.
Brian Flynn took over in the 7th inning and allowed a run. And he stays on for the 8th. He gets Simmons on a fly ball to left. And now Ji-Man Choi, who is 1 for 3 with a double. Kennedy went 5 plus 1 batter. He allowed 4 runs. Moylan pitched a scoreless inning, and now Flynn has given up a run in an inning and a third. 2-1. Right to Escobar. 2 down in the 8th inning. All right, Panera takes us around the league. We were telling you about the home run by Jose Iglesias in support of Justin Verlander, and the Tigers have won 4-2, so they're 5.5 back at the moment. Texas at home after taking 2 out of 3 from the Royals, and they trail Oakland in the top of the 9th inning. The White Sox and the Cubs. Todd Frazier has a 3-run home run. Yankees and the Astros. The Astros have gone from, what was it, Holtzy? 11 games under 500 at one point to 10 games over 500 and 2.5 games out. And they're dangerous.
Right.
That is a dangerous team. They were buried very early in the season. Yep. 11 games under 500 at one point. And now 10 games above. Up the left field line. That is a foul ball by inches. Kind of remind you of the Royals in 2013. Remember the Royals that year at one point were 12 games under and they finished the season 10 games above.
Yeah, you know, there's no quit in the Royals either, but you know, Houston, they've got their fangs out from last year. Now this, is that fair or foul? Ron Renicky, third base coach, he's questioning third base umpire Dan Bellino. Well, didn't see any chalk fly up when it landed, but it's painted on. It's out there. It's paint nowadays. It's not chalk like it used to be. More modern technology taking over. But they're going to review it. Nice swing. Carlos Perez. That was a good swing. He wanted that.
Enough to overturn?
I don't know.
Not for me.
Let me see.
Hey, by the way, doing the game on radio yesterday,
Right.
it was a bright day, and I don't have high definition over there.
All right.
Did you think Salvi was hit by that pitch, or did that hit the bat?
I thought it hit Salvi.
So did I. I was stunned that they.
We looked at every review, every angle we had, and
Salvi didn't argue. The Royals dugout didn't argue, and I just chalked it up that I just didn't have a good look over there, but that looked like it hit Salvi all the way. Yep, it's
Foul
confirmed that it's a foul ball. So 1-2 on Carlos Perez. So nothing changes, but I imagine Perez appreciates his manager
sure,
using a challenge, even though it's the 7th inning or later. Two balls, two strikes. Okay, this will be my first look at this with a clear monitor and high definition. I thought it hit him, but I guess it hit the handle. But there was no argument from the Royals dugout. Salvi didn't react negatively.
possibly meant maybe it hit the handle right by his wrist.
But did you guys think he was hit when you saw the replay?
I did. We thought he got hit.
Flynn strikes out Perez. So Brian Flynn gives up 1 run in his 2 innings of relief. Royals are down to their last 6 outs on offense, and they trail by 3.
2 here in the bottom of the 8th inning at the K. They're up on them. Fans, are you a fan of baseball history? Well, be sure to come out to Kauffman Stadium for Baseball Hall of Fame Tour. We Are Baseball, beginning August 5th. This one-of-a-kind mobile exhibit features artifacts, images never before seen on video, virtual reality, an IMAX movie, and cutting-edge technology. The exhibit galleries will run through August 21st from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day at the K parking lot. Purchase your tickets today by calling 800-352-0212 or visit halloffametour.com.
This is Cam Bedrosian taking over in the bottom of the 8th inning. And with a name like that, it begs the question, was he related to Steve Bedrosian? And the answer is yes. And he brings an impressive scoreless streak into tonight's game. Steve Bedrosian pitched parts of 14 seasons in the major leagues. He won the Cy Young in 1987. But Cam was only 4 when his dad retired. So he remembers his dad more as his Little League coach than he does a major league closer.
Right, and there's similarities there in their features too, the way they look. Steve had a beard, but I don't know if Steve threw as hard as his son Cam. He's going 95 plus. And a slurvy breaking ball he has. I don't remember Steve Bedrosian throwing 95 to 98, but he had some good secondary pitches.
2-2 on Hosmer.
Him and Jeff Brantley were closers for the Giants at one time. Kind of split that role.
Slider struck him out. One down in the bottom of the 8th. Cam is one of 4 sons to Steve Bedrosian, and they all played baseball. One of the biggest outs, if not the biggest out, for the Angels tonight was against Kendrys Morales in the 5th inning. Morales batted with the bases loaded and 2 down. One of the rare scoring opportunities against Hector Santiago, and Santiago reached back for a little extra with his fastball and struck him out. One ball, one strike. Fastball at 96. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
Yep, you're focused on that pitch there for sure. It gets ahead of you now. Now in the back of your mind is that little breaking ball. Now you know why Scioscia's using Cam as a setup man. Actually has better stuff than their closer, Houston Street.
Same pitch that got Hosmer. So 2 down, and now Salvador Perez. He turned in our Chrysler drive of the game with 1 on and 1 out in the 4th inning.
Yeah, at least one righty got to him. It's a good swing. Pulled his hands in, barreled it.
Salvi is 1 for 3 tonight. You look at the Royals back end of the bullpen. Wade Davis was a starter. Joakim Soria in the minor leagues was a starter. Luke Hochevar came to the big leagues as a starter. But now they groom closers in the minor leagues. And you mentioned Houston Street, who is the Angels closer. He was kind of the beginning of a trend of not turning a starter into a reliever in the big leagues, but start saving games in the minor leagues. So it's not a foreign role when they're asked to do it at the big league level. We also saw Kelvin Herrera there in the Royals bullpen. Herrera never made more than 8 starts in any minor league season, so he was groomed as a reliever in the minor leagues. Cam Bedrosian comes out of the Angels bullpen and strikes out the side, and he now has gone 20 2/3 scoreless with his current streak. Chien-Ming Wang will pitch the top of the 9th. Go out for a walk after a hot weekend. 5-2 Angels to the top of the 9th inning. Same time tomorrow night. Dylan Gee against Tyler Skaggs, who's coming off the disabled list. And then Danny Duffy will pitch Wednesday night against Matt Shoemaker. Both games right here on Fox Sports Kansas City. Shoemaker will be arriving by way of buggy.
Got a little Amish in him.
He's trimmed it up some. Chien-Ming Wang will pitch the 9th. He'll get Johnny Giavotella, Yunel Escobar, and Cole Calhoun. Off the end of the bat and into center field. That's Johnny Giavotella's second hit.
See how he watched that ball as he was going back to first base? The ball's in play. And sometimes, you know, when that little transfer from that outfielder throws to the infield, that's a bobble or a drop, you know, and I like it when I see guys keep their eye on the ball when it's in play. Now, look, he's not going back to first base putting his head down. He's still watching it just in case something happens and ball gets away, he can advance. But if your head's down and you look at the base, you can't advance if the guy misses it. Watch the ball when it's in play, especially anybody with speed. You can make a difference. The one time it happens, you advance. Then,
or we've seen the opposite happen, where a guy puts his head down and heads back to first. There's ball is thrown away and he never sees it.
Right. That's because he's from the Royals system. He was taught the proper way to run the bases here.
Giavotella was running as it's fouled away by Escobar. He'll come up and get him. Maybe got him on the ear. Yeah, no ear flap on the big league helmets. Watch your ears.
Yeah.
I want you to explain something to me. Hosmer will go to the bag. Take care of Escobar as Giavotella is up to second base. Explain something to me. It seems like a major league right that when you get to the big leagues, you get to wear the helmet with only one ear flap. Why is that such a big deal? Why do you need to have one ear exposed?
I wouldn't be able to answer that, but it was weird when I first got to the majors myself and I put the helmet on. I'm thinking, you know, I spent 10 years in the minors with double flaps on, and I didn't understand that either. But that's the helmet they gave me, and I don't know. We'll have to look into that. There's got to be a reason. Because when you're on the bases, you're not facing a pitcher that's throwing at you, but the ball's thrown at a high rate of speed out there, and it leaves it exposed. I can only think maybe it's because it's cooler. I don't know.
You play in Little League, you play in high school, you play in college, you play in the minor leagues, and you go with the double ear flaps. Now, part of that, of course, is cost. Double ear flap, you know, you only need about 6 or 7 helmets on a team. Righties and lefties can wear them, but I think in the minor leagues, it's more of a safety issue to, you know, especially with all the concern about concussions. They have the better reinforced helmets these days with an ear flap on both sides, but it always seems like a guy gets to the big leagues and can't wait to wear his big league helmet, which is one ear flap. And every now and then a guy will be diving back into a bag and get hit in the ear, or I mean, Escobar, he was a centimeter away from maybe cutting his ear with that foul ball at the plate. Did you like it better?
I did, because it told me I was a big leaguer.
That's my point.
Right.
Is there any other reason other than that's a big league helmet?
I don't know. Well, I'm going to do some further research tomorrow. We'll figure it out.
Shin-Soo Choo is a switch hitter, and or no, left-hand batter, but he wears the double ear flap. I'm trying to think of a recent switch hitter in the big leagues that always had the double ear flaps, but it's very rare.
We saw Delino DeShields with the Rangers. His dad was a switch hitter, and he wore double flap.
There you go. Calhoun walks, and the Angels have 2 on with 1 out, and a chance to put the game away with Trout and Pujols coming up. Remember to vote for the Royals Player of the Month at one of the 7 Rally House locations in the KC metro area. All participants will be entered to win a majestic prize pack. Mike Trout has come to the plate 4 times tonight. He's put the ball in play once, and when he did, he hit the ball to the warning track in right field. A strike from Chien-Ming Wang. In his other 3 plate appearances, he walked, and twice he came around to score.
Chien-Ming Wang tries to throw that sinker slider. He wants to keep it down. And he's working it right. Ground ball. Put him in the lane.
I remember when Dayton Moore joined us during a spring training broadcast, and Chien-Ming Wang was pitching well as a non-roster guy and looked like he was going to make the club. And Dayton said, of all the success they've had in the bullpen, it's mostly power, that they don't have a guy that they could bring on to get a ground ball. That's low. 2 balls and 1 strike. This is a little different because Wong has created this situation, but original plan was that if needed in a spot like this, come in the middle of the inning, get a ground ball and get out of the inning. And now it's 3-1 on Trout.
He's only grounded into 4 double plays this year. It's largely because he stays inside of the ball. He's trying to shoot the ball to the opposite field. He didn't roll the wrists over. And there it is. He's got that good inside out swing.
Almost a carbon copy of his fly ball back in the 2nd inning. That fly ball will get Giavitello to 3rd.
See, but that's how you stay away from hitting into trying to pull the ball and hit into a double play.
Isn't it amazing, as strong as he is and much power, how abbreviated his follow through is?
Yeah, he's strong. He sticks it. He takes the bat speed is generated right over the plate, and then he's able to stop it because he's so strong.
Runners at the corners for Pujols, and he's driven in 3 tonight. 2-run single, and the Angels 4-run first, and then drove in a run in the 7th inning. Pujols has driven in 75 this year. Not putting up the monster numbers that he did year after year with the Cardinals, but 75 RBIs is 3rd in the American League. And 1/3 of that total has been in this month, which is the most in the major leagues. He has driven in 70 in his career against the Royals. Up the middle, and Pujols has driven in 4 runs tonight. The Angels take a 6-2 lead. Giavitello with the leadoff single comes around to score. A 3-hit, 4 RBI night for Albert Pujols.
And you know, it's similar to the bases loaded hit he got in the 1st. Look what this is. This pitch is up and in, but he's leading with his hands, staying inside of that baseball, and he's directing it back up towards the middle. And believe me, if he's got as much time in the majors as Pujols and you have a .309 career batting average, you're using the middle and opposite part of the field. He knows how to do that. Muscle memory, and if you leave a mistake out, he knows what to do with that too.
This is the first at bat for Todd Cunningham, who took over defensively in the 7th inning in left field. How many times do you hear a player drive in 4 runs? And we'll hear from the press box, that's a career high 4 RBIs for whomever. Alex, diving play in foul territory.
Wow. What about that? Disregard for his body. He just wants to make the play. That's the true definition of a gamer. Right there. Make the play at all costs. Look at this last little effort. He says, I'm going to get it. Oh, and he kept his glove up, scraped up his right arm on that warning track. Look at that, his right elbow. He's a gamer.
Bottom of the 9th inning, the Royals are down by 4. He just gave the fans a thrill with this play on Cunningham.
I mean, there's no way he gets to that ball, but he tracked it right. But the ability to keep your eye on that ball, even as you leave your feet, as your head's moving, to have the glove placed in the proper position right there. Usually you're going to backhand that catch. He turned it over and landed right in it. Wow, that was a highlight catch for Alex. And wouldn't you know it, he's leading off.
Gregorio Petit takes over at second base for Giavotella, and Houston Street,
man,
his first pitch is launched a mile, but foul.
I haven't seen Alex turn on a ball like that all year. Ooh, Street, not overpowering. Sinker, slider, 88 right there. Alex was on it. Oh, I jumped out of my seat on that. Sinker, slider, changeup is Street. His changeup's a pretty effective out pitch that he uses. His ERA is over 5, though. He's had some issues. Opponent's hitting .338. He's not a shoe-in.
2-1 on Alex. He's another Angels player that's been on the disabled list this year. He had a left oblique strain back in late April, so that's why just 8 of 10 in save opportunities. This is a non-save opportunity. Trout goes into left center field to take care of Alex, and there's one down. Just to finish the thought on Albert Pujols before Alex made that great play. How often have you heard when a player has 4 RBIs in a game and someone from the press box will announce to the broadcast booth, that's a career high 4 home runs, or that ties a career, or 4 RBIs, that ties a career high with 4 RBIs for whomever?
Quite often.
That was the 64th time in Albert Pujols' career that he's had 4 or more RBIs in one game. 64. He's had 7 RBIs twice. He's had 6 RBIs twice. He's had 5 RBIs in one game 18 times in his career. Oh. Lined right to Simmons at short, and Paulo Orlando is the second out.
He's from a different planet. Planet hit.
It was just pointed out to me that you had a 5 RBI game in your career.
No, I didn't. No way. Really?
Yeah.
Nah.
Here it is.
But Albert,
May 31st, 1996 against the Orioles.
I never even knew I did. Really?
Was that the game you went into the second deck at
I have no idea.
Camden Yards?
I'm kind of like Monty. I remember the bad things more than I do the good things.
Strike to Eibner. He's 0 for 3 so far tonight.
That's a ton of
64 games
with
with 4 or more RBIs.
Yeah.
I mean, you drive in 2 runs, that's a good game, right?
That's right. One good thing is all you need to do. It's a big leaguer. It's hard. I mean, but if there's one play that personifies the Royals, it was Alex Gordon's catch. Never giving up, going hard, foul ball, useless play. Albert played like that at one particular point in his life, in his baseball life.
Petit in for defense, makes a good defensive play to end the game. So Albert Pujols with 4 RBIs, 2 in the first, 1 in the 7th, 1 in the 9th, runs onto the field to congratulate his teammates as the Angels take game 1 6-2.